Welcome back to another episode of MISMO Mic'd Up. I am joined today by Michael Vandi. Michael is the founder and CEO of Addy AI. And Michael and I recorded together on one of my prior podcasts. It might have been almost a year ago. And a lot has changed, especially in the space of AI. And I can't think of a better guest to join us in our early launch of the MISMO Mic'd Up podcast. Michael, thanks for joining today.
Amazing. Happy to be here, Brian. Thanks for having me.
I mean, you've kind of burst on the scene when we first recorded back on my FinTech Fridays podcast. You were somebody that people kept saying, "Hey, you got to get this guy on. You got to get this guy on." And I've been at several mortgage events, conferences, since we recorded, and just excited to see you showing up in at those events. And then a mutual friend of ours, and you were at another event, and your name came up in that conversation. So let's start, if we can, for the audience that's not aware of Addy. Oh my gosh, Addy AI. Please share with the audience, who you are, what you guys are up to, and then we're going to get into some pretty cool conversations around kind of the state of AI, from an industry perspective.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you for the compliments. I think over the last year, I don't think it's even been a year, but a lot has changed. We've accelerated the company so much in our premise of bringing AI to the mortgage industry and then working with AI experts and mortgage experts that have decades of experience in the business. So, as you know, I'm Michael, founder of Addy AI. The best way I like to describe us is we're making the dream of one-touch CTC a reality with AI. So if we look at what happened last year, the average mortgage loan took about 43 days to close. Now you can argue that retail or wholesale is faster. So what we've done is we've built an AI platform that helps mortgage companies prep CTC ready loans in under 5 minutes. So our platform uses custom AI agents. So these are AI agents that can review all the manual tasks from when a loan is submitted to when it goes to the underwriter. So when it comes back as CTC instead of a conditional approval, which in turn helps lenders lower costs to originate and then increase production volume. Team-wise, we're a team of AI and mortgage experts. We have experience from UWM and Carnegie Mellon, and we've worked with lenders of all sizes, from like bigger lenders to small broker shops, to help them implement their AI strategy.
And I love that. Before we hit record, you were sharing that, helping lenders implement their AI strategy, right? That's more than a product, right? And it's pretty exciting because in my early tenure here at MISMO, one of our key focus points for MISMO going into 2026 is to help the industry frame up the guardrails for the responsible use of AI in mortgage lending. And so I have to imagine, Michael, as you're having conversations with lenders and helping them define their AI strategy, but more importantly, how to implement that strategy. Can you just share, like, how are those conversations going as it relates to regulatory oversight or, risk management, anything that's that where it's still a little squishy on how people are looking at lenders relative to their use of AI?
Right. I think there is a little bit of a disconnect between what happens with like deposit taking institutions. So think of like the CD banks, the FDIC insured folks that have more of a regulatory burden than other institutions that are not deposit taking institutions, like IMBs that
Right.
have a little bit lower of a regulatory burden. And if we look back at what has happened over the years, I'm going to disregard everything that has happened with AI in the last, let's say, 20 or so years with OCR and stuff, because OCR just doesn't work, as we found out. And then we'll start from 2022 at the launch of ChatGPT. So 2022, lenders and mortgage professionals were like, well, this thing is cool, but it's going to help me write, it's going to help me write like blog posts. It's cool. I'm going to use it like on a sort of like minimal basis. And in 2023, things started taking shape. And then it was like, well, how can we use AI more broadly in the mortgage process? And so it was more of a lot of uncertainty. Like, can we use it? Should we use it? Are we going to use it or not? And so most of the events that I attended in 2023, that was the conversation.
Yeah.
And in 2024, we got to the consensus that, hey, we should actually use AI.
Yeah.
And then some other people started using AI on a minimal basis and started increasing the production volume. And then, 2025, coupled with a lot of these rate cuts that we're seeing right now, it's like, okay, now we know the benefits of AI. We've seen a few players implement AI really well. So we're talking about like the top three lenders, and everyone's like rushing to implement their AI strategy. But what has happened is they don't know where to start. And so
Mm.
when I look at, like, let's say, regulatory burden, and one of the things that we're seeing is with voice agents, where some people are blasting voice agents to consumers in order to get repeat business or like refinances. Let's say there's a quarter point drop in rates. And so that person is in refinance territory. So blast them with like 10 AI phone calls. And then we've seen that you have to disclose in the first 10 seconds that, hey, this is an AI phone call, right? And so there's a lot of uncertainty with regulations right now, and how lenders should be thinking about it is, hey, how can I play within the regulatory frameworks? Because it's still uncertain right now. Whereas the US, we don't have a generalized AI
Right.
policy yet, and people are still building it. So work with the existing regulations. So like FCC has brought up some existing regulations. Just think of AI as when you were thinking of, let's say, 90s robocalls, right? All of those sort of like regulatory hurdles that you have to put in place. And it's all about transparency too. Getting consent. So one of the things we build at Addy AI is for every sort of like AI outreach, you have to get consent first from the borrower. So consent is huge. And then for, let's say, larger deposit taking institutions, they just have to work with policymakers
Right.
in order to reduce the policy burden that they have, because there's a huge gap building up between like deposit taking institutions and IMBs, and IMBs are in a unique position right now to get ahead.
Totally agree, except for the fact that absent a kind of federal type policy, enforcement is really down at the state level. And so I think we're already starting to see, a few states, California and Colorado in particular, that have enacted legislation around the use of AI, specifically as they are starting to, audit, review, oversee mortgage companies. And so, part of what I think um, we need to focus on as an industry, and I'm guessing as you're doing these implementation strategy, this work you're doing with lenders, is helping define, create definitions for what is in and out of scope as it relates to AI, right? Because AI is this broad uh, term, but inside of that term, there's all kinds of tools that are AI enabled that may or may not be in scope from a regulatory perspective. So I think I love the fact that you're actually working with lenders on their strategy and in defining kind of the risk reward of the implementation. Um, there's a lot of lenders that are either so fearful that they won't go into this space, they won't put any tools in place, and that's a problem. Or they're kind of like, well, nobody's really looking at us. We're just going to go do whatever we need to do until there's a problem, and that's a problem. So
Right.
it is a really interesting time as the industry kind of grapples with how to implement the right tools in a way that gives them the ROI they're looking for, but also keeps them out of harm's way.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, Brian, it's relevant for lenders to publish like a security at or like transparency dot, let's say, lenderwebsite.com? Because taking a page from the California bill that you talked about, I think it's like SB 53 or something. And the biggest thing there is like folks building AI tools should publish all the risks associated with
Yeah,
it
yeah,
publicly for everybody to notice, right? I don't think
right.
anybody's doing that right now.
No, that's a great point. I have not seen anybody publish anything. I've heard conversations around, what the potential risks are. I've been in some conversations with lenders where they're guessing to a degree what the risks are, which is not never a good thing. So I think you're onto something. I think if you're out there watching and listening to the show and you're in the vendor space, this is a good tip from Michael. We should help define what some of the known risks are, and maybe that helps us uncover the next set of risks as well. So in the it's amazing to me how fast this whole thing is moving. What what has surprised you the most since you stood up Addy AI, in terms of the speed and velocity of change in this AI space?
I think it's the amount of uncertainty leadership has on what their AI strategy is.
Uh,
So how it goes is there's like a executive ping pong that's being played with like the CEOs and the CTOs. So the CEO will go into a meeting and ask the CTO, or let's say like the SVP of lending, what's your AI strategy? What's our AI strategy? And then they would also go to like the VP of tech and say, hey, what's your AI strategy? And it goes down. So it's like this ping pong, and then someone sort of like Google's, AI tools, and then comes to a vendor and says, hey, help we want to help develop our AI strategy, but we want you to do it. And so you're like, well, let's start from the beginning. What loan programs do you offer? Right. And so the uncertainty has been surprising for us. But what has worked really well is that we're placing these young kids into the mortgage industry, into, let's say, an organization, it's a random lender like Horizon Lending or something. So these are kids that just graduated with like a CS degree,
yeah,
have very little experience of the mortgage business, but have a lot of experience with AI. So they come in, they look at it from a perspective, and then we pair them up with a mortgage expert. So one of the things that we did well at Addy is we hired mortgage experts that have been in the business for decades. So we paired them up with that. And then some internal tools that we've built is it would look at all of your loan programs. We have this thing that we call Achilles internally. And then it would create like agentic sort of like tasks for, hey, these are all the manual tasks that you're doing for these loan programs, and how can AI agents do it? So our Achilles is working really well right now, whereas you just tell us your loan programs, we do all the research, and then create all the agentic tasks for your loan programs. So the uncertainty has been surprising, and also like the amount of like lack of knowledge that, let's say, young talent has in the mortgage process. This is something that I really stand for, that hey, we should be teaching young people the mortgage process
right.
a lot better than we're doing right now. When we bring people in, they don't know what AUS is, they don't know what Fannie is, they don't know what, like, even me the other day, I did not know that the MISMO standard was the Fannie 3.4 that we use daily.
Yeah.
I knew it was part of MISMO, but I did not know like ResBug and all of these different people that come together to make this happen, right? So I think a lot of education needs to be going on with how we're teaching young engineers on the mortgage process.
Yeah, I love that. And you're right. As an industry, and I've been at it for quite a while, um, we've we've tended to hire in a specific, role, responsibility, task, and as an industry, we haven't really done a great job of teaching that new hire what happens to the right of them and to the left of them. So they just know their own function. And that's one of the areas as I think about the power of tools like yours is accelerating understanding of the entire process, right? And I love that you described you bringing in mortgage experts into Addy, because a lot of startups do the opposite. They kind of come at it without the vertical expertise, and try to disrupt it in that way. And you've leaned into knowledge and expertise, and I think it's a really smart application of using human talent and then leveraging that with AI to accelerate.
I want to shout out Ernie from HomeBots. We met at a conference, and the first thing he told me, he's like, a lot of vendors come into the industry and they try to T-bone the industry.
Yeah,
I thought that was
yeah, yeah, yeah. And Ernie's he's definitely one of the OGs in terms of he came into mortgage from real estate, and but really was thoughtful about the problems he was trying to solve at HomeBot. So if you're, we've got an audience of mortgage professionals out there. If there's a lender today that's kind of watching and listening and unsure, where to start in terms of, thinking about or developing their AI strategy, what short of them reaching out to you, which I suggest they do, what is the first thing, a C-suite executive should think about in terms of, designing and developing a company AI strategy?
Right. I'm going to take a couple of learnings that we've had over the last couple of months. So first of all, you have to map your process. And I would not recommend anyone to change the current tools that they use. Like, do not change your current tools. What that's going to do is it's going to create a lot of chaos with your originators for learning new tools. We're bombarding originators with so many different portals.
Yeah.
And one of the feedback that we get, people are like, oh my God, this is one more portal that I have to learn. Like, it's a never-ending list of portals. It's the LOS, the POS, the CRM, the this, the that, and all of it. So map your process. Don't change your existing tools. And then try to see, like, hey, which part of this process, so let's say your process goes from, run AOS, get a couple of documents from the borrower, do income asset credit analysis and all of those things. And then, your underwriters come back with like a conditional approval, and then you try to solve those conditional approvals, right? And then say, well, let's take one thing. Let's take something as like, let's say documents collection. We use a POS for document collection. How can we implement AI to do document collection in this area? And then let's say you have some sort of like AI agent that just sends reminders
Yeah.
to borrowers after the first document collection request has been sent by the human. Like, so the human initiates the first thing, and then AI just sticks over like the follow-up, right? So when you map your process, you can really get to see like which areas are taking the most time. I do this with my team all the time. So this morning, I was talking to some people on my team. I say, tell me what you got done yesterday, and then how much time each of those things took. And you cannot believe my LinkedIn management is taking someone 5 hours a day. I'm like, why is it taking you 5 hours? And it should be like, so once you map out that process, then you can start to see like which places AI can help, right? So let's take one, for instance, like say document collection and all of those places. And then the next step is to say, well, how can I find a small group of originators in my team that can start testing this technology before expanding it to everybody else, right? So Melissa Langdale from Praxis says change champions, like you
Yeah.
identify some change champions right there. And then once you have those pilot programs, you set metrics for those pilot programs. For instance, let's say average time to when you get the first document back. Like these simple metrics, something so simple to track, and then you measure like, hey, does the average time to get the first document back increase after trying this AI follow-up tool? And if it does, you're like, okay, well, now I'm in the next phase of now to roll this up to like the next 50 to 100% of loan originators. So mapping your process is very important, setting clear metrics, and then having a small group of originators to test it first, and then move forward. What people try to do is just they think of AI as like a nuclear bomb, and then try to just drop it in the entire process, and everything just goes boom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great visual of that. And I'm thinking about like the the agents that are specifically following up on docs, right? You know, we all put yourselves in the shoes of a consumer. I get off the phone with my originator. I'm all excited about, what I'm trying to accomplish, which in this case is buying a home, not getting a loan, but buying a home is the objective. And for the consumer, sadly for us as an industry, the last thing they're thinking about is the documents needed to move the loan in the process. And so absent a tool, an agent that's continually following up, we're left to a human, an originator, maybe a processor, to reach out to that consumer 6 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks following up on this doc. And I think of, again, as myself as a consumer, I would have no problem if I was getting a text reminder from my lender, in this case, an AI agent representing that lender, every 6 hours, reminding me, of the need for this document. Because we just go on it with our lives as consumers, and we're not thinking about the email that we got yesterday asking for this document. So I think that's a great way to scale the reach and impact of a loan officer is to have a bunch of these agent assistants helping them do specific tasks along the way in real time. Do you see have you seen like what's been the loan officer, the originator reaction to these tools? Is it this is amazing, this is helping me so much, or is there also a little bit of fear of where this could go longer term? In other words, am I just setting myself up to be replaced?
Right. I haven't noticed a lot of animosity towards AI. And this is another shock to is you would think that something that helps people get better. And there's this whole like cliche of, hey, you're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by someone else who uses AI.
Yeah, yeah,
That I think people understand that. And then now is the time for them to look at these AI agents as sort of like co-workers, like human partners, right? And not like tools, um, bringing a lot of like human in the loop. So the feedback that we've gotten is for things, let's say, like income calculations. An originator probably spends a couple hours trying to get the right income calc, trying to find like the guidelines. And then if an AI just does it immediately after all the income docs are submitted, they say, "Oh my God, this is so helpful." Like we've had people say, "Like shut the front door. This is amazing," and all of that. Um, but then since AI can't do 100% of all the things right now, the humans do feel a lot of security
yeah.
because they're like, "Hey, I have to drive this thing." Like,
Yep.
hey, so now people are becoming like a manager of agents, like they're managing different AI agents. That's what I'm seeing. So there's a lot of security with some of the originators that we work with because they feel like they have the power. They're now like the like a CLO, like a chief loan officer,
Yeah,
managing a bunch of different AI
I love
agents.
that.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears and kind of bring this episode home. We're excited at MISMO to have you and Addy AI be presenting at our upcoming Winter Summit. The MISMO Winter Summit is in January in Amelia Island, Florida, and so thank you for agreeing to come on and present to our audience, our attendees, without giving away what you're going to be covering and talking about. Just give us a little sneak peek into what people can expect in January at the Winter Summit.
First of all, I would like to compliment the work that you all are doing at MISMO. I think you're doing an important work for our industry. Standards are important, but this is the best time to be building standards. Standards of how AI agents could communicate with other AI agents in the mortgage industry, standards about, let's say, ordering title, like all of these different things. I think MISMO has an opportunity right now to set the pace for how AI develops in our industry. So amazing work that you guys are doing there. Um, on our side, one of the things that we are excited about is to share live how a loan is closed with a human and an AI agent working together, and then show live how it works from when an application is submitted to when it
Love
goes
it.
to an underwriter and conditional approval comes in. And we're going to do this live
All
to all
right.
the collection. So I'm very excited for that, to just see that live thing in action. And we're going to time it. We're going to time how much faster it works.
I love it. Well, I'm looking forward to it, Michael. Again, thanks for coming on MISMO Mic'd Up, sharing all the great things that your company is doing. I can't wait for the Winter Summit. And for now, let's keep driving the strategy forward. Keep having those conversations. And folks, if you want to reach out to Michael, we'll put all the contact information in the link to this podcast. Michael, thanks so much for joining me today.
Amazing. Thank you, Brian.